Hi there! In case you're wondering, this is not your typical GreatScott video. This is no big electronics project or an electronics tutorial. I don't explain too many things. I think there will be a couple things I will explain, but not too much about electronics. This is just me sitting down and answering a couple of questions I got on Patreon. This is my unscripted Q&A video series, if you have not noticed it yet. But in this video it will not only be question and answers, I will also crown the top 3 GreatScott videos of 2020 voted by viewers, by you. There was a poll on Patreon where you could vote. And that's really interesting for me just to see how my videos, what kind of reaction they got. This way I can see how I will continue with the channel, in which direction I should head. And it's great feedback for me. And after we're done crowning those top 3 videos, I will then do my own top 3, in my opinion, because for me as a producer, there's a lot more that goes into deciding which is the best video, not only because I'm not only viewing those videos, I produce them, so there's a lot more effort, I work with those videos a lot more, and so it's not only about the viewing experience, but also what went into the production. And I think that would be interesting for you. And afterwards I will do the questions from my Patreon supporters. I got a couple of them, I think 18. So that shouldn't take too long, but I already looked through the questions. There are some very interesting ones. So I hope you're looking forward to that. Along the way, you will learn lots more about the channel in 2021, what will come up, in which direction the channel is heading, whether I will continue making videos. Spoiler alarm, I will. I'm having way too much fun making those videos. But there will be some interesting information, so keep watching, and I will now stop talking with the introduction. I will now continue with the top 3 videos of 2020 voted by viewers. So let's get started. So I already looked through the poll on Patreon and I determined the winners, the top 3 videos of 2020. Rather surprising, I would say. Like the number 1 spot, that was almost clear for me. I saw the feedback from viewers on the video, so I thought, yeah, that could be number 1. But for number 3 and 2, I didn't expect that, let's say it this way. So let's start with number 3, the bronze medal, which goes to building a USB Type-C PD power bank the super simple way, testing an AliExpress PCB. So my USB Type-C odyssey actually began at the end of 2019, I think. There I did a video about USB Type-C, just the general stuff. And there I explained how you can use USB Type-C for electronics projects. And that video blew up, kind of. It got like over 1 million views, which is quite a lot for me. Not many videos do that in such a small amount of time. So that showed me that people really are interested in USB Type-C. And I also was, because I think it's a great port. It offers lots of flexibility, what you can do with it. There's so much you can do with it. So of course I had to come up with more videos about the topic, and I also wanted to work on more videos on the topic because I thought it was interesting. So the first video I did was, I think, with the USB trigger boards. So the trigger board was also a project in 2020. You just use a USB Type-C PD power bank, plug it in, and you can select the output voltage levels like 5 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts, 15 and 20, I think. And then you can, of course, use those voltage levels to power electronics. And that was a pretty handy project, I would say. It was a lot more complicated than I initially thought. The communication protocol was rather complex, and I actually had to get some help to get this done in some way. So I thought that was really interesting, but that is not the number 3 video. The number 3 was then a rather simple subject, I think, but it shows to me that even simple subjects like this can be very entertaining. So I just talked about, I just ordered a PCB from AliExpress, which is made for USB Type-C PD power banks with an input and outputs with different voltage levels. And I basically tested it. I added a lithium-ion battery pack to it, tested it, did all sorts of things with it concerning testing. And yeah, that was pretty much the video, but it just shows that you don't have to go into too much detail when it goes with the other USB Type-C video where I did the trigger board that was super complicated, and I understand that this can be a bit frightening, a bit scary, so this found more appeal just because it was a good mix, I think, of simple and more complicated stuff. I can understand that it got the bronze medal. So let's move on to number 2, the silver medal. And that was a big surprise for me. I did not expect that at all. It is the DIY ESP32 AC power meter with home assistant automation integration. This video I did as a follow-up to my home assistant video where I just used the Raspberry Pi to create a small home automation system in my apartment. And there I just did some simple things, I think, like how to set it up, and also a sensor for my door which acts as an alarm system. And in this video I extended this idea by just basically showing you how to use an ESP32 in order to measure power in different rooms, and then showing this in this home assistant system. And I think this video for me was super interesting. It just showed you how you can calculate the real power, the apparent power, the deformed power. I'm not sure if I'm right now tossing around the wrong names for it. And also the power factor, how you can calculate all of that from just the voltage waveform and the current waveform. So you sample those simultaneously pretty much, and then do a couple of calculations. I showed that in the video. It was rather complicated, and that is why I'm surprised so many people like that. But then again, I think more Patreon supporters voted on the poll than Twitter, or than I think Twitter users or Facebook users or my YouTube viewers. So those people are also interested in very theoretical, juicy electronic stuff. So I think that is why it is the number 2 in this case, because if you're supporting me, you're obviously a big electronics enthusiast. So yeah, this may explain it, but it also shows to me that people are still interested in very theoretical and more difficult subjects. And that was definitely the case for the power calculations, the measurements. The video also did not perform that well. It is always, I don't know, people are not that interested in power measurements, calculations, at least when it's on YouTube. Like I said, the Patreon enthusiasts, they enjoy this stuff. But yeah, it's really interesting. I didn't expect that. Let's say it like this. For me, it was also a super interesting subject because, as you might know, I am a power engineer. So of course, measuring, calculating power is definitely my style. And yeah, really happy with the video. Okay, let's move on to number 1. This one I expected a bit. It got really good feedback. I did not expect that when the video came out. I thought people might not like it, but then again, people asked for this subject for quite a while. They always asked, why do you sometimes use a MOSFET driver and sometimes you don't? What's the difference? Why is it so important? And you might already have guessed it, the number 1 spots, the best GreatScott video of 2020 voted by viewers. The gold medal goes to Here is why MOSFET drivers are sometimes essential. MOSFET driver part 1, driver bootstrapping. Not the most elegant title, I would say, but a very important video, very interesting video, I think. I did it in cooperation with Word Electronic. You may notice that if you watch the video, and there I basically go through the basics, what is a MOSFET, how to switch it, and then I go through the more complicated stuff, like with its gate capacitance, you have to charge it up quickly and discharge it quickly in order to turn it on fast and turn it off fast, so it doesn't go through the more power loss creating operating areas. All all that stuff from basic to not very complicated, but a bit more complicated. About drivers, how to build one, about bootstrapping, what is bootstrapping? That is also a question that people have been asking me for years now. And with this part 1, I finally answered that. There will be a part 2, so I hope you're looking forward to that. With part 2, I will extend everything. I have a more practical example with it's sitting right behind me, that's why I looked there. With a Tesla coil, and the Tesla coil, we will of course drive it with MOSFETs, and there we also have to do some high side switching and low side switching. We could use bootstrapping, I will say that in the video, but for this example we will be using gate drive transformers, so those will be provided by Word Electronic. And I will explain how to use gate drive transformers and what's the difference and all that stuff. And I think I will bring this whole MOSFET subject to an end, at which point you will have a very good understanding how to drive them basically. Of course, there's a lot more to cover when it comes to MOSFETs, but that's always the thing with electronics. There's so much more than I can put in the videos. But at the end, you will have a good understanding of all the basics, I would say. So yeah, I can see why people voted this number 1. It was highly requested and it turned out pretty good, I would say. It was a rather long video, I think the longest one I ever produced, but definitely worth it. And with that being said, let's come to my own top 3. Fun facts, my top 3 videos are not the voted top 3 videos, they're completely different. I looked through them, and of course, like I said at the beginning, for me it is not only the viewing experience, but for me it is like how much did I deal with the subject? Was it super fun for me? Did I learn a lot of new things? All those sorts of things. So let's not waste time. Number 3, Bronx, is for me the tachometer RPM meter, DIY or buy, how a €3 sensor outdoes a €29 product video. This video was made, I think, a couple of months ago. For me, I did not expect that I would have that much fun with the video at the beginning. For me, the problem was just I use motors quite a few times during my work, during making videos, and I got this €29 tachometer. I showed it in the video. And yes, I know when it comes to the mechanical measuring mode, I put the wheel on, I did not use it correctly. I know that, I read all the comments, I make mistakes, that was completely dumb of me. I used that incorrectly and it is still in the video, but in the comment section you can see I actually tried it again with the mechanical option, and there it also spit out a better value but not a correct value, and that was the problem with this tachometer. It was always spitting out different values, which at some point didn't make sense. So eventually I retired from using it. I instead recorded my motor shaft in slow motion and used my editing software to see how fast it spins. That was ridiculous, way too much effort, I would say it like this. So for this video, I finally decided, okay, I will look into the matter, I will truly show that it does not work correctly, and then I will do a super simple one with a €3 sensor. It was with an infrared light, an infrared receiver, and that worked out so well. I actually did not expect that it would work out so well with this small €3 sensor. And then I just added some Arduino magic with a timer, which basically counts the pulses and then creates an RPM for that. So a really awesome project for me. I loved how it worked out in the end, how effortlessly it worked out. It was a lot of fun just combining all those principles and just having fun with it. And that's why it got stuck in my head, how well it all turned out in the end and how simple it was. I think pretty much everyone who watches my videos can build something like that, and that is always a plus. And that's why for me it got the bronze medal. And with that being said, let's go to the second place. The silver medal for me goes to essential electronics components that you will need for creating projects. this was an awesome project for me. I never really thought about the subject as a video, to be honest. I got this idea from Patreon supporters who asked for this for a year now, maybe. I got this idea in 2019, I think. And I thought it was finally time. At the beginning, I had no idea how I should make this video, how I should structure it. And then I just looked through my videos and I started to notice, okay, the hook could be that, for example, I got so many electronics components, it's ridiculous. I just cleaned up a bit during my Christmas break, and I noticed how much it is, and most of it you don't use it. Like in the video I said like 95% additional stuff, and then you maybe got 5% of electronics components that you will need, like a couple voltage regulators, capacitors, resistors, MOSFETs are important, Arduinos, something like that. You can see it in the video, and I think it's a great overview for everyone who just wants to get started with some simple projects. And if you want to extend your knowledge and then go into deeper projects, you can always just buy this one component you need on eBay or Amazon. But other than that, you just pretty much only need those components laying around and you can get started with projects right away. And I think it was, at the end of the video, I was surprised how good it turned out. I was like, yeah, this is really useful. And that's why I think it deserved the second place, the silver medal for me, because I think it's very useful for any electronics beginner, any kind. Yeah, okay. And let's go to the number one, also a video where I put in lots of effort. I wanted to do this video for years now. I wanted to do it in 2019. Then I had lots of other things on my plate, and then it moved to 2020. And pretty much the most time-consuming project of this year was for me, and it's the gold medal, automating a greenhouse with LoRa, part 1, sensors, temperature, humidity, soil moisture. You saw it in the video. I started this video production in February, where I basically built the greenhouse. That is also in the video, which I think is a nice bonus. It's interesting to see someone just putting up a greenhouse. At least that was for me, my opinion, just adding this in there. And then it was also very interesting to use LoRa. I talked about it before, where I pretty much extended the range of my garage alarm system to my apartment with LoRa. LoRa stands for long range, in case you don't know that yet. And yeah, my greenhouse is pretty much like 600, 700 meters away from my apartment. Here I got my LoRa gateway, which connects to the internet. And there I pretty much set up the transmitter. Here's the receiver, and it sends this data over from the sensors, temperature, humidity, and soil moisture, which I got rid of in part 2, but you can watch those videos, very interesting. And yeah, I pretty much sent over the temperature and humidity data from my greenhouse. I set it up there with a battery, a small solar system to power it all, then the Arduino, which gathers the data and then sends it over through LoRa to the gateway. And all of that was very interesting. It was a very practical build, I think. If you got a greenhouse or something like that and you would love to measure and control the temperature and humidity, this is very interesting, very practical, that you can use. Those components are not that expensive, so if you're interested in the subject, definitely have a look at it. And for me, it is just number one because I put so much effort into it. The series already got a part 2. There will be a part 3 coming, actually. I already got that in my head because lots of viewers asked for an additional feature, which I initially thought I don't need, but now that so many people asked for it, I thought about it a bit more, and now I'm at the point where I say, okay, there will be a part 3. I will start production in February, I think, and this part 3 will bring the whole greenhouse series to an end, and I hope people will be happy with it. And yeah, number one for me because it's so interesting, was took a long time, and it's something I want off my bucket list for so long, and I'm happy that part 1 and 2 are done and 3 will follow soon. Yeah, and those were the top 3 videos in 2020 voted by viewers and by me. And now I'm going to answer some questions from Patreon. First question from George Sorin. Well, snubber capacitors and circuits. I've working with relays and Arduino for 2 years now in order to activate some contactors for 3-phase AC motors. At first the Arduino resets when activating one of those contactors. Added snubber, no reset, but now it freezes. Question, how to calculate one of those snubbers and how to prevent those freezes on an Arduino. Okay, so snubber capacitors, I actually teased them when I did my Nixie clock video. Back then it was pretty much just a joke, but they actually do have a purpose and they are sometimes quite important. For example, when you got a switching task with a MOSFET, or in this case it was a relay, and you basically want to switch high currents. The problem you often face is that there is inductance in your circuits. But it's not inductance that you can easily get rid of when turning it off, like sometimes with a motor where you just add a flyback diode so that when there is the current spike, it can discharge through the diode. Sometimes you got an inductance you can hardly prevent with a diode, let's say it like this, when it is, for example, a wire inductance. Then you can add a snubber capacitor which basically absorbs the energy which is created by those inductances during the turn off or turn on event. That would create a big current rise, a big voltage spike, and those snubber capacitors basically absorb that and dissipate it, and that is basically how you prevent your MOSFETs or relays from getting destroyed. This was of course just a small summary. There might be lots of errors in what I just said. Keep in mind I'm German and I just had to translate that on the spot. But that's basically what snubber capacitors are for. You have a switching task, high currents, and you just want to prevent your MOSFETs or relays from getting destroyed. So with the Arduino, it's a bit weird that the Arduino actually freezes or stops working as soon as the switching task occurs. So you might want to look into the gate of the MOSFET, whether you got over voltages there, which you can maybe get rid of with a Zener diode or with a proper MOSFET driver to isolate the Arduino a bit from the MOSFET side. So maybe even using an opto-isolator or an optocoupler, something like that. And then I would definitely have a look at the power situation of the Arduino. So having a look with the oscilloscope, just observing whether the power changes during the switching task. Because of course, if you share a power supply with the switching and with the Arduino, then you can have the problem that during the switching, the power for the Arduino might oscillate and the microcontroller may not like that. So definitely look there just to add maybe some bypass capacitors, some better ones, combination of electrolytic and ceramic. I also did a capacitor video, so maybe that can help you. So yeah, for me, I would say, if you already tried snubber capacitors, of course, you ask about calculations. I cannot say that in the video. Maybe I will do a proper video about snubber capacitors in the future. But for now, those calculations can be quite difficult. So you can add the like some standard values for snubber capacitors. You can find those on the internet. It is important that you use capacitors suited for that, because they have to handle quite a bit of power, current and voltage. So you can add those, but then again, I would look at the MOSFET gate situation, the Arduino situation, how you drive that, and the power situation of the Arduino, and then all of those three, combine that and see if that works for you. And if it doesn't, it gets really complicated. So in this case, I cannot help you from this side right now, but I think you, with a lot of troubleshooting, and if that does not work, maybe change your PCB design and then try something new, but eventually you should get rid of the problem and learn something along the way. So, good question. I will keep it in my mind, and hopefully I will sooner or later do a video about snubber capacitors. Okay, let's move on to question 2 from Pier Ing Liang. Every time I watch a video, it looks so easy, but when I want to repeat the project, I'm stunned. I cannot understand the schematic diagram. Where should I start to design a circuit? Do you plan to do some video on simple project for circuit idiot like me? I doubt that you're a circuit idiot, I would say at the beginning. It is all just practice. No one is an idiot when it comes to electronics, it's just you have to practice a bit more. But George Sorin, whose question I previously answered, got a good response for that. I've been in your position many times ago when I was a beginner. Back then, my mistake is that I always wanted to do big stuff with Wi-Fi, Ethernet, IoT, yada yada. But never blink an LED. Start with small things and easy, but sure increase the difficulty. Very good point. I couldn't agree more. Start with simple stuff, like he said. Blink an LED, do some projects with that, then move on to maybe not Arduino, but do something with an op amp, then move on to something with transistors, bipolar junction transistors and MOSFETs, just switch those on and off to control something. And then you can move on. Then maybe add an Arduino to control those things, and then control those things if the Arduino got an input like that, and then maybe create a simple game with LEDs, something like that. Like, he got a really good point. Simple and then continue. So I do have an electronics projects playlist on my YouTube channel. There are over 100 projects from very simple to very complicated. So I would recommend just looking through the playlist, and if you see something simple that interests you, maybe not follow my instructions. Basically see the end result and try to get there by yourself. I think that teaches you a lot, and then you continue with the next project and the next project, and eventually you will know how to design a circuit. And if you learn it by yourself like this, I think it is the best way. It is the way you will remember it the best. Yes. Next question from Margin Osterius. Did you study electrical engineering or maybe something similar? I have to pick what I'm gonna do soon. I not only studied electrical power engineering, that's what I graduated in. I have a Bachelor of Engineering and a Master of Science. I also did a job. I learned the job of an electrician. In German it is Elektroniker für Betriebstechnik. In English I have no idea how it is called. But if you have to study in university, I would maybe not recommend electrical power engineering like I learned it. I would recommend something like automation systems. Like in Germany it is called Automatisierungstechnik. In English, automation electronics. Not sure how it is called there. But I realized maybe too late how interesting that is. So that has a lot more to do with programming for microcontrollers, programming for the industry, with everything. There's a logo, if that is something you're familiar with, or programmable logic controller, those sorts of things. And that is also a very interesting subject. If I haven't done power electronics, I would have gone into automation electronics. So maybe those two, this is something you find interesting. Of course, always look on the site for your university, what the subjects are for each course, and maybe that is something for you, and maybe you will enjoy it. If you like my videos, then I think you will like one of those two. Of course, you will always have to keep in mind my videos are very practical. In university, you'll learn a lot more theoretical stuff. You will calculate a lot more. And the practical stuff which I do is actually pretty much at the end, only a side note, I would say, so be prepared for that. Next question from Ike25. How do you stay motivated after doing YouTube for all those years? Do you plan to eventually retire, maybe slow down YouTube and start doing something else? How do I stay motivated? I pretty much do what I love to do. I work with electronics in all kinds of different fields. Of course, there are sometimes subjects which are not that interesting, but that's like with every job. Sometimes you're doing stuff you do not enjoy that much. But for me, it is always something interesting with different electronic subjects I also want to learn about, and then creating videos for that, presenting it to viewers and basically teaching them. Because if I would not do YouTube, I think I would be teaching somewhere, something. I love that. So for me, I stay motivated because it's always interesting and I love teaching, and the whole video production is also very interesting. One thing I might not like that much is doing the voiceover and editing the audio and video. That can be a bit annoying sometimes, I would say, but everything with electronics, super interesting always. And that's how I just stay motivated. Sometimes it's a bit much with the work because a lot of hours are needed to create one video, but for me so far it's always been worth it. From my happiness side of view, how much I like it, and it is also worth it from my financial side of view. So everything is fine for me. And do I plan to retire? Currently not. If things go on like this, people still want to watch my video, people support me, and I have fun, which I hope will not change in the near future. I will not retire. And there are sometimes people who say I'm running out of ideas, but that's not really the case with electronics. There's always something new. Sometimes I understand that there are periods of times in which there are no subject for particular viewers, and that's why they say, oh, you have no more ideas. But for me, it's always like, no, I have plenty of ideas. I'm just right now at the subject that you might not be interested in. And eventually, there will always be subjects which are interesting for all kinds of viewers. So that's finding ideas is not the problem for me, I would say. And that's why I will not start doing something else in the near future. Okay, next question from Santo Pino. My external low power GSM project failed due to the LiPo 3.7 volt batteries not resisting too low and too high temperatures. What battery solutions do you suggest? In my country, external temperature in the equipment could range from -5 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. I did quite a lot of videos about different batteries, how to protect them, BMS stuff. You can watch it on my channel. And for me, I would say the simplest and most resistive battery type when it comes to temperatures is the simple lead-acid battery, also the car battery that you have in your car. Of course, it's rather heavy and it's not that easy to carry around. So for a GSM project, I doubt it is the best solution, but I think that's the safest one when it comes to those things. Another type which I also worked with I think I did this last year, 2019 at the end, where I did a power wall with a big lithium iron phosphate battery. So it's LiFePO4 if you want to Google that. That is also, I think, a battery type which is very safe and can endure a big temperature span. So I think that would be a battery that is more suitable for such a portable GSM project. You can also buy those very small in the format of a LiPo or lithium iron battery. And there are types which can handle those temperatures. So LiFePO4 is my answer. And I hope the comment section agrees with me, not sure. But yeah, look into that, lead acid or LiFePO4. Okay, next question from Bas Dijkstra. Did you ever break a component due to ESD? Are there some components more susceptible for this type of failures than others? Don't bother pronouncing my name, it's Dutch. You should have started with not trying to pronounce your name. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. ESD, so electronic discharge, electrostatic discharge is what it means. So basically, if you charge yourself up from going over a floor, or like it's so hard to explain for me in English right now. In German, I could say it much better. But you know what I mean. So you're basically charged up, electrostatic, and now you're working with electronics, and you touch something, an IC or something like that, and due to the high voltage, it discharges because it is somehow grounded somewhere, and then you got a fried component. So did I ever destroy a component through ESD? No, I did not. I know from other electronics engineers that they're always careful with the subject, like wearing an ESD band or something like that. What I always do before working on components is basically just touching the protective earth in an outlet of mine, and this way I discharge myself, because that is of course grounded, it is earthed, and I sometimes feel a small shock when doing this, so I was charged up. But even if I forgot doing that, I never had the problem with ESD, like really never. It has never destroyed any components, so I cannot give you a big answer for that. But for me, it has never been a problem, and that's why in my videos I never say that you should discharge yourself or something like that. For me, it just has never been a problem, and I think lots of others will disagree. Like, maybe they fried something. Let me know in the comment section below if that ever happened to you. But for me, never did, and hopefully never will. And if it ever does, I will post it maybe on Twitter, Facebook. You can see it there when that happens. But so far, never had problems. Just ground yourself one time, and then it worked for me. And even if I didn't, it always worked for me. So yeah, not much to say about that. Okay, here is a long question from Michael D. So let's start. Hi GreatScott, would be interesting what your supporting legs for income are and how much are the fractions. So my supporting legs, I think he means financially. I actually thought that out before I made this video. My supporting legs, I think, are of course the YouTube ads. Then I also got sponsors in my YouTube videos. You know that from the small ad after every intro from JLC PCB or Word Electronic or Elector or someone else. The third leg is my affiliate links. So basically, if you buy a component through the video description where I put a component list from AliExpress, for example, then I get a small commission of the price. Don't be scared, you don't have to pay more. It's just a small percentage of the price which I get for basically recommending the product. And then of course I got Patreon, where many people can donate to me, like maybe $1 a month, which is super appreciated, because for me that's pretty much the most stable income I got. It doesn't fluctuate that much like the ads or sponsor or the affiliate links, and this way I can pretty much with a carefree life continue producing my content. And this might be interesting, like the percentage, what is important, what not. And I really do have to say that sponsoring brings in the most money in this case, like maybe 40% I estimated. And then the YouTube ads, which bring in about 25% of the total income. Then comes Patreon with 20%, and then my affiliate links, which do 15%. So except for the sponsors, the three other legs are pretty much very close by for the financial income of mine. And yeah, it's all pretty important to keep the show going. I didn't have a breakdown. This year was a bit interesting when the whole lockdown situation started. There, the revenues all went down a bit, which is of course a bit scary for someone who is self-employed. But that regulated itself in about 1 or 2 months. So right now it's all fine. I can continue doing what I'm doing and have a carefree life. And I think that is actually the next part of the question. How much of that income do you spend for your job, and is the remaining personal part enough for a carefree life, a living? it is definitely enough for carefree living. I cannot tell you how much I spent on the job. It's not that I don't want to, but it's just so complicated. Like, where do I draw the line between personal and my job? Like maybe the 3D printers, I use those in both ways. The computer which I just got, if I count all those in, it can be quite expensive. Of course, I also have to get components. And it's just hard to keep track of the costs. But for me, the costs for making the videos were never too big. Like I said, I have some lags and lots of support, so it works out financially that I get enough through the income sources to basically buy everything I need to make those videos, to make them look good, make them sound good, and then also do a variety of different projects which all require different material, different tools and whatnot. And for carefree living, it does work. For example, right now I'm saving up to buy a house. Then again, the house is not only for the personal side of me. Of course, I would love to live in a house. In an apartment is just sometimes restricted. But also, of course, for my videos, because if I got a house, I could got more space to finally do some welding or something like that. Build bigger projects, like have a space where not everyone is always watching when I'm doing something outside, working on a project. So this enables me to do lots more projects, also with different aspects of what goes into the video. I think it is super hard for me to explain right now, but yeah, that is something, and due to the income I can save up a good amount of money for that. German houses are super expensive, so it will take a while until I will get there, but hopefully one day, and I hope everyone can profit from that, because I can finally do bigger projects with more space, where I can be louder or build a huge Tesla coil for which I don't have a space, or build a go-kart, which I wanted to do for a while. But then again, where should I build the go-kart? At the moment, there is no space. So those are, for example, some projects which I would definitely have a look at when I'm at the point. Yeah, so that was just a small side story. So would you encourage others to start a similar career nowadays? It's hard to say, because when I started, I didn't saw it as a career for me. I said it before, thousands of times I think. I did it because not many other people make videos like I do, with scripts and putting a lot of efforts into that and keeping that relatively short. When I started, no one was pretty much doing that. I tried doing that. At the beginning, of course, it was terrible. But over time I evolved, and now I'm rather happy with my videos. Now they look like what I wanted them to be at the beginning. And that's why I started. And of course I wanted to teach, I wanted to share projects, and I just love tinkering. And there are lots of other reasons which I will not state right now, but you get the idea. I started this for fun pretty much, and over time it just developed. And of course, if you're looking for fun, if you're looking for educating others, if you're looking for, like I said, creating content that isn't there that you would love to see, then of course, make YouTube videos. No one is stopping you, and I think some people would enjoy it, but don't expect it as a career path. I think for me it was just lots of luck that this turned out this way, that I eventually made enough money so that I can do this full time, being self-employed this way. But that took years. I think my first 4 or 5 years I got other incomes, and then I did this full time. So don't expect lots of money to get when you start. Eventually, if you're good, you got viewers, then this might work out. But as a career path, there are other paths which are more stable at the beginning, I would say. Later, you don't know how it will turn out, whether it's a huge success or not. So, next part of the question, what is your stimulus for what you're doing? I think I said that before in a previous question where he asked for how I stay motivated. So look up that question. Do you have done more advanced private electronics projects that did not fit into your channel? The only big project I did, which was not on the channel, I did for my university, and that was my electronic skateboard. But I talked about that in the last electronic skateboard video I did. So I would say not really, because I incorporated some of those things into the new video. There are some subjects which I did not talk about, but overall there is no big project which is not on my channel, because I really do not have time to make big projects outside of my YouTube things, because making videos takes so much time. Give a summary of your year 2020. It was a rather surprising year, something that hasn't happened before with the pandemic. And when it comes to my YouTube production, I would say it did not affect it that much. It was a bit more difficult for me personally, because for me, I'm always locked in making the videos. And then for me, just going out, going to the gym, swimming, climbing, that's my free activity stuff. And that was, of course, due to the pandemic, not possible in the same way as in 2019. So that kind of sucked. But in the end, I think it did not, you do not notice it that much in my videos. But for me, it was, of course, a bit of a personal challenge, just still making good videos while not being the happiest while doing it. So my production still worked out pretty much fine this year. There are still lots of viewers. So the year for me, 2020, I would say you would think it was a bad year, but overall, in the end, for my YouTube production, it was still a good year. Lots of interesting projects, lots of great tutorials I think I made that lots of viewers enjoyed. And that brings me to my next question. What are your goals in 2020 for your channel? Basically continuing this trend. One thing I noticed while recently cleaning up my lab was how many unfinished projects I got, from the drone, which I never finished, to a Raspberry Pi Mini, Game Boy, and something else, and some more projects which I do not want to talk about that much, because then everyone will tell me in the comments to finish that. So maybe finishing a couple of those projects, or maybe just one to begin with, and then also doing some new stuff, like with the greenhouse this year, just trying out new things, because some change would also be nice. But I will try to still stick to my good old tutorials, good old videos that many people seem to enjoy. So yeah, I will basically continue what I'm doing and sprinkling in some new stuff. And I hope that will be pleasant for most. Best regards from Lower Saxony. Frohe Weihnachten und einen guten Rutsch, Mischa. Frohe Weihnachten, auch von mir, vielleicht ein bisschen spät, aber auf jeden Fall noch der gute Rutsch ist ja auch schon zu spät. Trotzdem guten Rutsch und dann einen erfolgreichen Start ins neue Jahr. Next question from Christian Santibanes. Hi Scott, I'm working on a LoRaWAN node and I want to know which are the best modules/chips that you can recommend to connect to a TTN, the Things network, or similar network. Thanks and greetings from Sheila. In this case, I do not have that much of experience with different chips and gateways. I can pretty much only recommend the ones that I used for my greenhouse video and my alarm video. So basically look them up on my YouTube channel. There are 2 videos with the alarm starting the series with LoRa, the garage alarm, and then watch the greenhouse video and pretty much get those. They worked out perfectly fine, so I didn't have the issue of finding other chips to work with. Get those, get the gateway, get the chips, and they should work perfectly fine, in my opinion. Next question. What's the most useful thing you learned this year? Since he is not referring to electronics, in this case I would say Working with FPGAs was very useful, I think. I just did a bit of beginner stuff with FPGAs. I did a video about that, but I think I will hopefully continue working with them in the future. So that was pretty much the most useful thing for me. Electronics related, but other than that, I started playing guitar, which, okay, people would argue that's not useful, but for me music is very important. I listen music every day for hours. So yeah, playing guitar was very useful for me just because it's fun. It relaxes me. I have lots of fun learning different songs, so that is definitely the one for me. Next question from the Jukebox Man. How is your greenhouse doing? Could you already pick some fruits and vegetables? My greenhouse is currently empty. I got rid of all the plants when winter started, and it is currently waiting for me to plant new things. But yeah, it turned out way better than I initially expected. I got cucumbers, tons of tomatoes, bell peppers, even sugar melon, and one watermelon was there, and strawberries, and yeah, it was a lot. And I look forward to planting new things the coming year and trying out even more new stuff when it comes to fruits and vegetables. Okay, next question from Eduardo Salazar Hidalgo. What has been the most impressive short circuit you have ever seen or made? I actually have not seen big short circuits on accident. I did them for videos. For my battery safety videos, you can watch them, just battery safety, GreatScott, search that on YouTube. And I did that for LiPo batteries, lithium-ion batteries. And that was pretty much the most impressive for me, just how fast they puffed up and created fire and smoke and very dangerous stuff. So that was for me the most impressive short circuits. Next question from James Seabook. Not sure, sorry. Have you thought about adding hydroponics to your greenhouse and building a system to measure and add nutrition automatically? Some people asked for that in the comment section of my greenhouse video. I looked into it and I decided it was not for me. Not really interesting at the subject. I'm aware of it, so maybe in the coming years, but for now I want to do other things, not hydroponics. So sorry about that. Next question from James. Why in Germany do you not use elbows when doing conduits? Is this not defeating the purpose of protecting the cable? To my knowledge, like when you want to lay cable in a garage or something, you use conduits where you put the wire through. And in Germany, you do not usually use elbows. Those conduits are, of course, for protecting the wire, partly. Most importantly, it is to guide the wire to its position and making it look neat and tidy. And you use elbows if you got problems with animals who eat the insulation and the wires in the end, who go in there, but that's really not a problem in Germany. So if you use elbows, it just gets way more complicated. Doing the layout for the conduits, you have to be more precise, and just with the open space there, you have a lot more flexibility with the positioning of all, and it's not a hassle, I would say. So that's why most of the time you do not use elbows. It is possible, but I actually have never seen it in Germany, to be honest. And yeah, I hope that answers these questions. Of course, it somehow defeats the purpose of protecting the cable, but from what in Germany is the question. If you got a problem with animals, then yes, you add them. If not, it's just not necessary. Okay, next question from Robert Mazey. What current or future technology as a microcontrollers, ICs, whatever it may be, are you most excited about? Example, USB Type-C PD was a very cool and relatively new tech. What else is exciting moving forward? For me, there is nothing that big I noticed in recent times for new technologies. But for me, most exciting is, like I said, about FPGAs, just getting them to work in a more simpler way. I already got some emails from Kickstarters where they want to simplify FPGA programming. So that is most interesting for me at this moment. So I will see what I can do with that. But other than that, there's really no big new thing like USB Type-C PD, which I'm familiar with. If you got good examples, what is currently super exciting, new in electronics, then write it in the comment section below so I can have a look at that. Okay, and that brings me to the last question from Jovito. Would you consider posting more electrician videos such as the wiring video? There's a lot of false information on the internet and I'm sure you could improve the situation. Thanks for the trust. I would love to improve the situation. So there are pretty much two big types of wiring installation here in Germany, and that is in conduits, which I showed you in my own garage with the low voltage solar system. And I recently also did a video for a friend in his garage with mains voltage, the wiring there. That is a video that is already available for Patreon supporters, and it will come out, small announcement, it will come out on the January 17th, I think. That is when my show will continue. So this Sunday, this will be the Q&A video. Next Sunday, there will be nothing. And the following Sunday, everything will start once again. 3 videos on Sundays and then 1 week break. So basically the schedule that I've been doing in 2020 and 2019. And now I completely sidetracked, but I just wanted to say that. And then there's the other installation type, which is inside the wall. So that is something I definitely want to show in a video, explain how to properly do it. Like I said in the previous video, when it's mains voltage, you should always hire an electrician, but I still want to show it, how to do it properly. And that will definitely come out sooner or later. Once again, that could interplay with me buying a house. If I got the opportunity, then I maybe have the chance to do some wiring inside the walls, how to open them up, how to lay your cables and all that good stuff, where everything should be positioned. So I would definitely love to do that. Not sure when, like I just said. If I got the chance, the opportunity, then of course. And maybe there will be some other electrician subject coming in the future. There's still lots to talk about, and I will see how I can incorporate those ideas in videos. Yeah, and those were the questions from Patreon. I hope there were a couple of interesting ones. I already said it in the questions. In 2021, I will basically continue my video production the usual way. Yeah, I just said it before with the release schedule, how it will continue. In 2 weeks, you will see the first big video, and then everything will continue like usual. I will try to sprinkle in some new stuff, try out a couple of new things, and I hope it will be interesting for you. In the end, it will always be somehow related to electronics. So I hope you're looking forward to that. I hope you're having a great start in the new year. I hope everything works out for you as much as it does for me. So yeah, I think I have nothing left to say. If you got any questions, comments, suggestions, everything, you can put everything in the video description. Like I said before, I read all the comments. We can talk there, talk about all kinds of stuff. So let me know your thoughts on the video, on the whole year situation. How has your year been? Yeah, and with that being said, like always, I have nothing more left to say than stay creative, and I will see you next time.